Welcome to Technology Trainings, using Office Mix to share lessons and create tutorials online module. In this module, we're going to show you how to use Mix to create lessons and share them in a flipped classroom, how to create tutorials for a lab or for other processes that you use in your school, and how to check analytics and see how many of your students have watched the videos or how many of your participants have watched the videos, as well as some other useful information. Let's have a little talk quickly about how to get Office Mix. It's pretty straightforward. In order to get Office Mix, you're going to go to mix.office.com. Okay, so that is mix.office.com, and that's going to take you right to their website. You'll have to log in using your O365 login, which we'll talk about in a second. But the key thing to remember is you do have to have PowerPoint 2013. Okay, or newer if you're watching this video after 2016 has come out. Mix embeds into 2013 and will also work in Office 2016. If you need to know how to download that for either your work computer or your computer at home, make sure you check the Moodle course. Inside of the top, there'll be directions on how to do both of those. Alright, so downloading Office Mix is pretty straightforward. As you can see, I've opened up a browser and I'm gone to mix.office.com as I wrote on the previous slide. And once you get here, it's very simple. We're going to come right over here to the upper right and we're going to click Get Office Mix. And now here's where it's going to ask us to sign in. Now for Mix, because you want to share this with other participants in Hillsborough County or you want to share it with your students, you're going to want to sign in with a work or a school account. And as you can see right here, your email address that it will ask for is your Lawson number at hcps.net. Okay, at hcps.net, Hillsborough County Public Schools.net. Okay, you're going to use that login. In this case, the browser remembers me, so I'm just going to click here, but you may need to type that in and hit Tab to get to the next screen, which you see here. Notice the Hillsborough County Public Schools login lets you know you're in the right place. Now the password you're going to use is the exact same password you would use to log into Ideas or log into your computer, your typical password that you have to change in intervals with the county. Once you sign in, you can see Mix is downloaded and you can install that onto the computer. Notice you need to make sure that PowerPoint is closed before you install it. And you may need to have the administrator at your site help you install this. That's the computer administrator. It's not necessarily an assistant principal or principal, but they'll need to help you install it because it may ask for a password. We're working to get it put into the software portal very soon. You may check that if you're watching this before you ask your administrator or your school computer administrator to help you download that, because that would not require the administrator password. Okay, so once you get Office Mix installed to your computer, Office Mix is going to appear as a new tab inside of PowerPoint. You can see I circled that tab right there. Mix gives you several options that we can do with slides, and we're going to go through all of these. And the first of those, though, is going to be slide recording, and that's actually what I'm doing now. I'm recording over a slide, annotating, and recording my speech. So to do slide recording, you will click right here. Okay, once you click slide recording, this screen appears, and this is kind of the home page for slide recording to set up our options before we actually begin to record. You notice that you've got your several options up here along the top. Okay, and we'll go through all of those in just a second. And you have some options over here on the right, and again, we'll go through those as well in just a second. Starting up at the top, obviously the record button starts your recording of your slides. All right, and in the navigation window here, this is how you navigate between slides and animations as you go through the PowerPoint. You'll see this big area here in the middle is your actual slide, presented just like a PowerPoint. So the animations and transitions will follow along in that window as you record. Also here, very important, you've got slide notes. I can actually type slide notes in as a script for when I'm recording so that I don't have to remember all of my recording as I go through. Over on the right, we have several audio and video options, and here you can set if you want to use your webcam to record your video, which will be inserted into the slide, or here you can set which microphone you want to use. I highly recommend that you use a headset with a microphone. It helps to cut down on the noise in the background, as well as get a really nice clear recording of your voice. You'll see here you can set the volume level, and then here you can set your inking preferences. Okay, you can set the thickness of the pen and what color you want to pick. Try to pick a color that contrasts with your slide so that it's easy for your participants to pick up what you're writing and what you're annotating inside.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly demo how to actually do the slide recording process so you can see it live. And I'm going to click slide recording. And then here is the kind of preview screen we went through. And now I'm actually going to click record to start my recording. Now, one thing to remember as you're recording is that the arrows in the spacebar still work the way they traditionally would on a PowerPoint to bring in your animations or transitions. So you don't have to use the buttons up here at the top. You can see once I come into the record screen, I've got my options along the top as well as my annotation across the side. Now you can see that I have this nice red flowing box around the outside, which lets me know that I'm recording. And you can see when I hover my mouse in the middle, the pointer turns into a pen. And that's because at this point I could annotate over the slide if I want. You can see the transition remains. Even though I'm recording over top, the transitions and the animations still remain in my PowerPoint. I can grab a pen and come in and underline, okay, or I can circle a word that's important, okay, or I can put a star next to an important point, or, you know what, I can freehand draw. So if you're a math teacher and you want to do a flipping the classroom lesson and you want to demonstrate how to do a problem, I can just come right in here and work a problem out in my open space. So that's the powerful part of annotation. Again, if I want to go to my next slide, I just go to my next slide, and there it is. And as I'm recording, what's really awesome is that it records each individual slide as an individual recording. So if I mess up on slide 5 or 6, I don't have to stop and go all the way back to slide 1. All I do is just click stop in the upper corner and then click record again to record over that slide, which is really a powerful piece of mix that a lot of slide recordings don't have. So again, quick demo of the slide recording screen. Your options are up at the top left. Your annotation is up on the top right, and it can move through a PowerPoint just like you would normally. Okay, and you can annotate over top of your slides and continue using the animations like you would in a normal PowerPoint.
Okay, so the next piece of mix that you can do is you can actually screen record whatever's going on your screen. This is extremely useful if you want to create a tutorial for a process in a computer lab, or for how your students can access files that you shared to EDSB, or for any process that you would do on a computer inside of your classroom. Pretty straightforward to do. As you can see right up here in the upper left part of the screen, I've got an option for screen recording, and that's what we're going to click. Now once we click that, this pops up and basically shows your desktop or whatever window was open before. And as you can see, this middle part is kind of hazy looking, okay? And that's because at the moment, I want to select an area that I want to record, okay? If for some reason it's not hazy, you can click Select Area right up here in the top, and that will allow you to select what area of the screen you want to record. Now something that's also really important is that you want to make sure that you have your audio recording turned on, and you want to make sure that you have your pointer recording turned on. If you're doing a process, it's important that the students can follow along, or the participants can follow along with your mouse and click through the options that they're going through. For now, I'm going to click Select Area so that I can select the area of screen I want to record. Now as you can see here, I've selected an area that's about, I guess, 2/3 of my screen. Okay, you can kind of see it right along here. This red box is outlining the area that I want to record. That's the area that is going to be recorded by the slide. And typically, I like to record my whole screen. It gives context to the viewer. It allows the participant to see exactly on your computer where you're going and makes sense to them instead of just being a window. Now, if it's something you want to zoom in on really closely, then I would suggest just selecting the area where that option is, and that way you can zoom right in on that, and it's very easy for the participant to see. But kind of mix it up, play with it, see what works best for you when you're doing screen recordings, and pretty much that's it. Once you're done with that, you click Record in the upper part, and then when you're done, you click Stop. And otherwise, that's pretty much it to screen recording. Now you can see here, once I've hit stop, my screen recording appears back on my PowerPoint slide, and I can move that and resize it and apply any of the options I normally would to a video inside of PowerPoint. You can add frames or borders or effects. The one thing I want to really point out though is once you record a video or audio into a slide, you cannot record annotations or your own narration over it. So if you wanted to do a video that you shared with your students, you would want to insert a slide before that where you could talk about the video, what your expectations were for them watching it, and any directions they would need to know. Put a slide with a video on it, and then put a slide after that that has follow-up questions or a follow-up activity. And just again, point of fact, you cannot record your voice over top of a video or audio that is already embedded into a PowerPoint slide. Now the next option we're going to talk about is quizzes, videos, and apps. And this is a way to insert questions or responses or polling items inside of your mix. Again, presenting information to a student or participant is only half of the cycle. The other half is assessing that learning and giving them an opportunity to demonstrate their learning or use their new knowledge to build on and create new conclusions or new ideas. Inserting a question is very simple. Right up where we've been inside of the Mix tab, there's an option right here that says Quizzes, Videos, and Apps. And I'm going to go ahead and click that and show you the options inside of there.
Okay, so when you click Quizzes and Videos and Apps, this little guy opens up and a little pop-up window. And it may default to this My Apps page, and from here you may see you don't have any apps. That's simple. You just come right here and click Store. And then you can see here are our types of questions. Adding one is very simple. In this case, I'm going to add a multiple choice question to my PowerPoint. Hit Add and then trust it. And then you're going to see this little question window is going to appear. Now while that's loading, I'm going to go ahead and just like any object in PowerPoint, I'm going to resize it. So I'm going to bring it up here into my upper corner, and I'm going to resize it to fill the whole screen. I do recommend that when you insert questions into a PowerPoint, you have them fill the entire screen. And the reason why is that way there's no distraction to the participant or the student as you're going through. Putting a question in is very simple. Okay, all I have to do is type right up here, and you can see now Mix has got this new what you call WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get, editor, where you can pick different styles and bold your fonts and do formulas and all kinds of good stuff. All right, so we'll type our question. In this case, I am going to type a question from my, kind of background as a social studies teacher. And which of the following had an influence on the Declaration of Independence? Okay, and I'm going to come down here and go ahead and put my options in. Now, let's say Thomas Jefferson, and we'll pick John Locke. And notice I only have 2 responses. Well, I probably want more than that. So to add another one, very simple. I just click Add Another Answer, and then I can add 2 more into here. All right, so once those are in, very simple now. Over here on the right side of the screen, I can click whichever check I think is the correct answer. I can use these chat bubbles to add feedback, and then up here in the top, I can choose that I want to shuffle the answers. I can allow retry, or if I want, I can limit the amount of attempts the participant or student has on the question. I can also change the font size by clicking up here at the top, and once I've done that, that question is inserted into my PowerPoint and will be presented to the participant or the student when they're watching the mix, along with the ability to answer the question. And inserting questions is that simple.
Okay, so once we've inserted recordings, presented our content to our students or participants, we now want to upload the mix so we can share that with them. And that's pretty straightforward. Right here on the top, on the Mix tab, we have an option that says Upload to Mix. So we're going to click that option and go through the upload process so you can see how to upload that to the internet and then share it with your students or participants.
Okay. Click Upload to Mix to begin the upload process, and you can see a little pop-out appears over here on the right. I'm going to click Next to begin the upload, and it typically will ask you to sign in. Now you'll notice here we have the same options we had before, and we want to make sure that we click Sign In with a work or school account. Again, Lawson number at HCPS is your login. Okay, Lawson number at hcps.net. I click that, and it's going to take me over to the Hillsborough County page. And I'm again going to use my current password to log in. And you can see here I've got some options. I've got this is a new mix, or I can choose update an existing mix. So if I've already recorded a mix and I've made a couple changes here and there and I want to upload the changes, I can do that just by click upload an existing mix and drop the box and pick the mix I want to change. In this case, I'm going to say this is a new mix. Now, this is a very important option here. Okay, enable playback on mobile devices. If you want your students to be able to watch your mix on mobile devices, you want to make sure you check that box. If you keep that box checked, while they will be able to watch it on mobile devices, the one drawback is that they will not be able to answer any questions you embed. Now that's currently the case. Microsoft is working on a way to make that possible so they can insert questions and answer them on their phones, but at the moment, unfortunately, making it a video or enabling it on mobile devices means that they will only get your video and annotation content. They will not get the embedded questioning. I'm going to uncheck this just for the case of time because you can see it may take several minutes to make a video, and I'm going to go ahead and click Next, and it's going to start going through the uploading and publishing process. Now obviously the bigger your PowerPoint is, the longer this is going to take, so be mindful of that. This is actually going pretty quickly. And once it's finished, you'll see this Show Me My Mix button will pop up in orange. Alright, so using the power of the internet, you can see this went really quickly. Actually, I waited for it to upload and redid a recording. But nevertheless, you can see that it says success, your mix has been successfully published, and I can click Show Me to My Mix to take me and show me where my mix is and get a link for that mix.
Okay, so once you've uploaded it, here's an example of what Take Me to My Mix brings you to. You'll notice that right here, I have the URL for my mix that I can share with Edsby or any other sharing platform. I've got my title, which I can change. Now the title defaults to whatever you save the PowerPoint as. So if you save it as Flip in the Classroom, it's named Flip in the Classroom. If you save it as multiplication or division or whatever title you use, that's what the title of the mix is going to be. You can always edit it here. It's also recommended that you put an appropriate category for it. And now this permission and sharing box is very, very important, okay? Very important. And the reason why is because of this slider. If you want to get analytics back from your students that watch the video, you want to make sure that the slider is set to organization, okay? That's very important. You can slide it all the way to public if you want to share it with anybody, but if you want to get your analytics back from your students, you want to make sure that you pick organization. One of the other really important things, and I cannot stress this enough, is that you want to make sure that Allow Discussion Board is unchecked. If you check that box, and I want to point out that it is checked by default, if you check that box, it will put a chat window below the mix where if students are watching it at the same time, they can have a chat back and forth. Needless to say, we recommend at the moment that you do not turn that option on unless you're using Mix with adults. Okay? So pretty straightforward there. Again, you can get a link, you can change the title, give it a category, set your permission and sharing to organization, and make sure that you have Allow Discussion Board unchecked. Now let's talk about what you're going to provide your students to log in so they can view it. Just like how we log in with our Lawson at hcps.net, they're going to log in with their student ID at hcps.net. Okay, when it asks them to log in. Lunch number is what that's obviously otherwise known as, but student ID at hcps.net. They're going to use their current password to log in. This is what they would use for Edsby or any other platform we use inside of our county. Typically though, for us, that is month/year. Okay. That's typically what their password is to log in so that they can view Mix. Now back over here on the kind of details screen for your mix, I want to click My Mixes to take me back to the main list of all my mixes so that I can review analytics for a mix that I've uploaded. As you can see, once I've clicked My Mixes, I have a list, and I'm going to choose this Flipping the Classroom one to use. What I'm going to do is, in order to see some additional information about it, I'm going to click Analytics so that I can go in and see some data about this mix, who's watched it, and how long they spent on the slides, etc., etc. So I'm going to click Analytics and go in to show you that.
Okay, now you can see here's my analytics page, and my analytics page tells me quite a bit. I can look at my data by slides, by visitors, or by exercises, and I also have some filtering that I can do on my particular data. What's really nice though here is that I can see how many people have been to the mix, how many times it's been viewed, the average time that was spent on the mix, and the slide duration that that slide has. Now what that tips me off to is that if my average time spent is a lot greater than my slide duration, clearly there were gaps in understanding, or the viewer needed to go back and watch the content several times. As a teacher in a flipped classroom setting, that would tip me off to reteach that material tomorrow, or at least start off with it to make sure that my students didn't have those gaps in understanding anymore. As a professional development trainer, or as anybody who would be sharing a video, it tells me that maybe I need to follow up on my participants to see if they understood that information. Now, if my average time spent is a lot lower than my slide duration, that tips me off, whether in either case, that the people who are watching the video or watching the mix are not spending a lot of time on it. They're just simply skipping through the slides. So that means I would need to follow up with them to make sure that they got the content. If it's a little bit less or a little bit more, I think that's just within your kind of zone of error. But when you see a big discrepancy between that average time spent and the slide duration, that tips me off that there's a problem. If I click More, I can actually see specific data for specific people. Okay, so you can see here, I can see how many of these people, how many times they viewed it, and the time they spent on the slide. If you look down here at the bottom, here's an example of a question slide, and if I click More on a question slide, I can see all of the responses from my participants or my students, and if they got the question correct, or in this case in a short answer, what they put in for their short answer. I think the most powerful part of Mix, while annotations are fantastic and while you can video yourself and you can talk to your students, having the analytics really completes that circle and allows you to take the data from Mix and apply it to your teaching or apply it to your training.
Okay, now you've learned pretty much the ins and outs of Office Mix. Here's a few tips and tricks as you're creating your presentations. For most demonstrations, including this one, sometimes it's better to record your voice and annotation over a screenshot than to do a screen recording. You can annotate and provide better visual direction for viewers or for students as you're going through it, and actually circle which option they need to choose or highlight different options that they need to know about, which makes it a little bit more engaging and a little bit easier to follow. Keep it simple, but make it entertaining. Move your little videos around if you choose to use webcam to record yourself. Have props, make it enjoyable. That creates buy-in for the participant, especially with flipping the classroom with students. If you're doing kind of something funny and enjoyable and the students are talking about it the next day at school, the people or the students that don't watch the video, now they kind of feel a little bit of that inherent peer pressure to watch the video because they don't want to miss out on what the teacher's going to do in the next video on the next night. Good idea to always use a clear, legible font and use it over 14 point size. This guarantees that anybody who's viewing it will be able to see your font clearly and be able to understand what you're trying to convey. And then also, always keep in mind, whether it's students or participants or whoever, that viewers need a chance to apply their learning in regular intervals. You can do that by asking them to pause the mix and practice, like we kind of did today, or you can insert questions so that they have an opportunity to apply their learning and demonstrate their learning to you, the teacher, or to you, the facilitator. I hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial video. That's pretty much the end. If you have any questions, feel free to email me through the Moodle course or through ideas, and I look forward to seeing your mixes in action.